Welcome to Mental Health Momentum, a Silicon Slopes podcast. I'm Dr. David Morgan. I am a licensed psychologist and the director of mental health awareness at Silicon Slopes. And on this podcast, we talk about mental health issues in business and beyond, and we look for solutions. I'm going to introduce my guest to you today, Cory Ivins. Mm-hmm. Yes, got it right. Yep. Didn't even ask you how to pronounce your last name before, but I got it.
You nailed it.
First try. Perfect. Cory, thank you for being here. Let me tell you a little bit about Cory. Cory is a human performance coach and strategist who's on a mission to bring humanity back into business. After years of hearing it's just business, Cory challenges that narrative by reminding leaders that it's always personal and that the best outcomes come from honoring people, not ignoring them. With a background in sales and building high-performance teams, including one made up of savants and misfits who became top-tier collaborators, Cory helps individuals and companies clarify their purpose, align their strategy, and lead from a place of trust and ownership. His work has helped save both careers and marriages, proving that the same principles that build high-performing companies also build wholehearted humans. Cory isn't in the AI business, he's in the humanity business. He believes every person has the capacity to lead with vision, and that reactionary short-term decision-making is often what breaks people and teams. His approach is grounded, practical, and refreshingly personal. Outside of work, Cory finds joy in the simple things: time with family, mountain trails, deep conversations, photography, EDC gear, and fixing old cars with his kids and friends. He's the kind of guy who carries a pocket knife and a story that you'll remember. EDC gear. What's EDC gear?
Everyday carry.
Oh, everyday carry. Nice. Awesome. Cory, thank you, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to have you here. Anything outside of your bio that you want viewers to know?
Oh my goodness, I'm a fairly boring person on most days. So, but I love people, and it's a joy that I get to work with people for a profession.
Yeah.
So
it's a fascinating profession, right? Because I'm obviously, as a psychologist, I do the same thing. And it's just this moving target all the time, right? Yeah. Like you can't just sit down and say, okay, this is how this situation is going to work out, apply this solution and X results. It's constantly moving.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's both the biggest challenge and the biggest reward.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes. I totally agreed. Yes. So tell me about any interest in mental health. I mean, you allude to that in your bio as well. So do you have you had personal experiences, friends, family, or your own mental health experiences?
Yeah. I mean, and you and I met, first of all, from the Promise to Live World Network, right? Through Brandy Vega, and she's just marvelous. But when I heard her story and the impact that she's trying to make, I was like, I'm in, right? Because I've had my own situations or my own experiences with mental health and suicidality and everything. And it's a very personal story, but ultimately it's when you feel like you're stuck in the world and the world doesn't accept you for just who you are, and you're never good enough, you don't measure up. All of a sudden you start asking some really hard questions. Yeah. And that can happen over time, and it can happen suddenly. And for me, it happened very suddenly. And then I wasn't ready. I wasn't equipped. I didn't have the tools to kind of pull myself out of it outside of a few questions that I had to ask a personal friend of mine when he was on that edge of asking himself, is life worth living? And I just had to ask myself those same questions. Yeah. And thank goodness my answer was yes, like it is worth it, but there's some no questions. Like, are you willing to let your family blame themselves for this action? Are you willing to, And when I asked my friend, I asked him, are you willing to live with the fact that this is going to happen? Like trying to reinforce as much of that language as possible. His answer was no, and he's still here, thank goodness. And my answer was no, and I'm still here, thank goodness. So it's not easy sometimes, and it can happen. It can just come out of nowhere. It can hit you. So when we do engage with either corporations or individuals, we're always leading with, what are you made to do? What's the impact of your life? And where do you connect your purpose to whatever you're trying to accomplish, whether it's work for a business, build a business, or just be a better person? So regardless, like that's our goal, is to build people.
Well, and I love that idea of purpose as well, because that is probably one of the main missing factors in people that are struggling to decide whether they want to go on. And it's just because they don't feel like they have that purpose, but every one of us does.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, I mean, for you, it sounds like your purpose was just kind of hidden to you for a moment or whatever. And I love these stories just because there are many people out there who are struggling with these types of thoughts, and then they can look at people like you and go, well, look at that, here's someone who's had that experience and now is having a successful life experience and is successful in business and on podcasts, all this stuff, right?
With the David Morgan.
Yes, that's right.
So excited.
So talking about purpose, so tell me about your kind of the transition in your business, right? Because you started in like this kind of, account executive, basically, and now you've got into kind of the coaching and helping people see that. So how did that happen?
Yeah. Let's say learning by doing.
Okay.
To some degree. I had an opportunity to enter the sales world, and they just threw me into like a senior account executive role. So I had to learn how to sell very quickly.
Wow.
And how to connect with very large corporations and do all of that fun, very complicated selling. In that, I was successful. I had some really good years. I found myself at kind of the upper echelon of sales, and I was like, oh, this feels really good.
Yeah.
And at the same time, because I was pursuing my career so diligently, I found myself, I wasn't at home a lot, and I was missing the soccer games and the recitals and all of those things. And my excuse was, I'm doing this for my family, right? Like I'm doing all this work for my family, but it was my family that was paying the price of me building my career. And so over the, a few years of kind of trying to dial it in, I mean, my wife and I, we were on the brink of divorce. Like everything was off, like we were kind of done. And we both, thank goodness for my beautiful wife, we both decided to turn toward each other and fix it instead of make that other decision.
Right.
We, it took a few years, but I found out how to actually balance work and life and still be a high performer, but be home when I'm home.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy thing to do.
And it's a moving target as well, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And it has its own seasons, right? Where sometimes you're like, I just have to be gone,
Right.
But then to balance it out on the other side and say, like, this is where I'm going to dedicate my time and I'm going to give that time back, and understanding when to give and when to take, and that the family understands, like, hey, yes, dad's away for a little bit, but when he's home, he's going to be home.
Right. Right.
So we worked very diligently to protect that. And ultimately what I found is, my corporate lifestyle supported that to a degree, but then there's always how are you going to do better next year and next year and next year? So my final year in the corporate space, I was carrying a 10x quota compared to any one of my peers, because I just performed well.
Right.
For a
so
while.
The expectations grew for you. Yeah,
exactly. And so I thought, I'd really like to have a bigger impact on the world. I'd like to help people figure out how to do this. And I found myself coaching my peers more than doing my day job almost, because they were all burning out. They were all struggling. And so we had these little underground factions of people that wanted to connect to purpose and grow. And so we were doing that. And I thought, maybe I can do this for a day job. And so I found an awesome partner. His name is Aaron Shields. And he and I together, we kind of made our exit from the corporate world. And we've been doing this ever since.
Nice.
So
nice.
It's been a blast.
So improving mental health in business settings. I mean, because you guys are kind of, I don't know, hackers, pirates. I mean, you go in and say what's wrong, right? And mental health in the workspace is a real thing.
It is.
Yeah, and it affects productivity. It affects bottom line. I had a colleague of mine who was an HR director for many, many years, and he said that the disruption that either unrecognized mental health issues can cause is significant. He says, if you can plan for a disruption, that's okay. Like saying, okay, we know that so-and-so is going to be gone for 6 weeks, so we can plan about that. It's the unplanned things. And so just becoming aware of that. Do you help businesses do that? Like trying to become aware of that? How does that fit into what you guys do?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because we have worked with HR teams in the past, right? Because obviously when you talk interpersonal, HR is going to be a part of that.
Right.
A lot of times, though, companies will treat their products better than they treat their people, right?
Yeah.
So, because product is what is going to produce revenue. It's the thing that's going to sell. But if you, and this is going to sound impersonal at first, but there's a reason. But if you treated your people like products, they'd actually thrive.
Right.
Because you'd say, well, where's the bug? What's the thing that isn't working? Where should we invest our dollars to make sure that this thing gets fixed?
Right.
And if we had that kind of product approach to people, you would see a ton of improvement in personal well-being and mental health. And they would not only be able to improve their lives, but they would bring that improvement to the workplace.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? They'd be thinking of bigger ideas. They'd be more innovative, more productive. So when we bring some of those ideas to the workplace, we see an automatic 30% bump in productivity just overnight, because people are automatically connected to something new. They know why they're coming to work every day. They know why they're doing what they're doing. And just that alone is like, they just come to work their best selves. And then if we can dial in vision of the company and all of the operational stuff, you can see a 3 to 5 to sometimes 7x return on investment there. So it's a huge multiple. It just works. What I'm afraid of is the AI wave that we're on right now. Like, all I'm seeing is people getting forgotten. Right. And people getting laid off, and people losing their jobs, and teams becoming, quote unquote, more efficient. But the very people that built that business are the people that are now, left behind. Yeah. And I'm hoping there's a way to figure out how to find the balance between AI and productivity and people. Yeah. So that people don't end up left behind, but can thrive using those same tools.
Yeah. I think we will find the balance. I don't know how much catastrophe we're going to have before then, because that's what leads us to the next innovation, right? Is that this really didn't work the way we were doing it, and the wheels came off, and so now we got to figure out how to move forward.
Right.
But I love that idea. Business leaders are willing to invest the type of energy and curiosity in their people that they do in their product, then they're going to see it's going to make a much bigger difference than just investing that energy in the product itself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, what happens when you build a better product?
Right.
You make more money.
Exactly.
So I know it's a really simple argument, but it's an effective one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So invest in that tool.
So do you have recommendations for business leaders? Like, how do they improve that connection? How do they help people feel like they're a part of the team? Like that 30% increase that you referred to. What is it that causes that? What are the leaders doing that's changing things?
Yeah. So what I see most of all is, think of leadership kind of like a triangle, right? So you have your C-suite at the top. Let's say you're an organization of 100 people. You have your leadership team at the top. You have your middle managers, and then you have your actual doers right there. And like, what I find is those middle managers, they're kind of that glue. They're that conduit of vision and purpose that kind of translates the top down to the worker bees, if you will. Right. And if the middle management isn't clear on vision and purpose, both from the company down, but also from all those individuals moving up, right? Where does, John in customer service connect to the vision? Right. And how does Sarah, in marketing connect to the company's vision? And if they don't understand their unique connection to the company, then they don't bring their best right. selves. That middle management tier, a lot of people see them as kind of disposable, or they're not doing any good, but they're kind of the glue in the company. Yeah. Like, a good manager is going to be able to understand that vision really clearly and be able to articulate it all the way down, but then be so connected to their individual reports that they can connect all of those pieces back up to the vision.
Right.
If you don't have that, everyone's just scattered, and John would rather, go fishing on Fridays,
right,
exactly. than go to work. And that's where you get that disconnect.
So because there has to be some sort of connection from the leadership down to the, like you said, the worker bees, right? And I guess in small enough companies, that could be a direct connect, if it's a company of 10 or something, then the leader's there with you all the time. But most companies, middle and large size companies, they need that middle thing. And so you're saying that that's kind of where maybe maybe disconnect is the right word, but just a lack of understanding of that vision, that it's getting lost in that middle space right there. So is that where the focus is, like making sure that middle space is dialed in, understands?
If you have more than 100 employees in your company, that needs to be a focus from a leadership standpoint. That needs to be a priority in your company. You grow to 500 and then 1,000, and there should be someone dedicated to that to some degree. It should be their core responsibility, is to make sure that all that messaging internally is working. As much as your marketing team is responsible for all that external messaging and reputation and PR, there needs to be as much dedication internally as well, because your customer service reps need to understand that vision. So when they're making decisions on the behalf of the company, they know why they're making that decision. Or your product team that's developing, why are we doing it? I can't tell you how many product teams just run amok and they build the next shiny object, and then things go sideways. Right. There's a lot of companies even here in the Valley that we've talked to, that the product team just, they think they're building something really cool, but they're kind of building a space shuttle for everyone that they just want to get to the grocery store,
Right.
you know? So that direction and that purpose is paramount, and being able to communicate it clearly.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we do is we work with that middle management tier. We'll advise to the C-suite, but we love playing with directors and VPs and, you know, those kind of larger level leaders, because they need to be very clear on how to communicate that vision.
Yeah. When we talked earlier, I mean, this next question, you kind of answered it already, but I was listening to a presentation not long ago, and there's just this, especially among entrepreneurs, this grind culture, right? You know, you just have to keep going and keep going and keep going. And then on the other hand, we're saying, well, there's a place for your own mental health. There's a place for your own sanity, for your relationships, those sorts of things. And the person I was listening to, they said, the question was asked, well, what do you think about entrepreneurships? Can they have kind of that middle space? And this person said, no, it just has to be grind. And I disagreed. I thought, I don't know, you have to have space. You found yourself in a position where you almost lost your marriage, right? Because of just in service to the family, which it really isn't. So yeah, just what are your thoughts on that just in general? You know, this idea of business success at the sacrifice of everything else.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really great question. That's why, like, I find myself kind of in a unique place. I'm almost 40 and doing the entrepreneurship thing kind of for the first time. And I would recommend, if you're going to do entrepreneurship, do it early.
That's right. Decide if you like it then. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I did it kind of the inverse. I built the career and then decided to abandon it. So we'll see how that works out. But I would say do it early, like, so that, you know, you won't, like, time is your one limited resource.
Right.
If you need to dedicate time to something, do it when you don't have to give time to other things.
Right.
Now, you can still be an entrepreneur, but it might mean that you make a little bit of a trade-off, right? So if you want to be an entrepreneur at 40 years old, maybe have a couple other eggs in a couple other baskets so that you can pursue it until it takes off.
Yeah.
Right? Just be smart about how you do it. Because if you really need to grind at that level, you might be saying, hey, honey and children and everyone, I'll see you in 3 months because I need to go grind it out.
Right.
So I disagree with the premise that you have to grind, but if you're not going to grind, like, be smart about how you build your business.
Right.
So I think it's just about, you know, working smart instead of working hard.
Exactly. I think so much about it is being intentional. I think too often we find ourselves just being kind of led around by the tail by life. And like you said, even that example of the business building a space shuttle for someone who's trying to get around the block. And it's just, instead of thinking, what is it I really want to do here? What is it that that's going to be helpful to others? It's just kind of this almost like spastic reaction. I tell my wife all the time, we love watching The Amazing Race when it's on. And one of the things that is so funny to me, people will get out of the cab, that they're supposed to get to a destination. They don't know exactly where they're going once they get there, and they just start running.
Yeah.
Because they think, we're in a race, we have to run. And I'm like, well, I get it, but sometimes they're running in the wrong direction, right? It would be valuable to take just 30 seconds to get your bearings, look around and think, okay, where do we need to go from there? And then start running instead of just starting running because we're losing time.
Yeah.
And so I think as people are starting to figure out, like you said, if they're later in life or if they have multiple things that need their time, to be intentional about that. Like you did. Once you kind of resolved things, you said, there's time when I need to be focused on work and I will do that. And there's time when I'm going to be at home and I'm going to be focused at home and not doing the work. And it's hard for people to make those clean breaks sometimes.
Yep, 100%. Well, I think that clarity is so important. I have a mentor. His name is Joe, and I love the guy. He's helped me in so many ways. He'll throw it back in my face, some of the ideas that I come up with, or some of the the directions I want to move, and he'll go, "Well, what don't you want in that scenario?" And it stops me because I'm thinking, what do I want? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to arrive? And I'm so driven on that outcome that I'm not thinking about all the things that might happen if I actually get what I want. It might be like, now I'm overcommitted from a time perspective because I landed that big contract, but now I'm definitely not seeing my family for a couple months now because I'm now like knees deep in this project and I need to work this many hours. So as you move forward, as much as you're trying to articulate what you want, a lot of times it's useful jumping into the what I don't want scenario. And when you're thinking about what you don't want, I don't want to be overcommitted, or I don't want to lose access to, this person, or I just don't want to be that uncomfortable in life. It helps you build that vision out
Yes.
accurately and intentionally. I think that's what you're saying with the Amazing Race analogy,
right?
You need to be moving in the right direction and with intent.
Right.
And if you're not, then you're just chasing squirrels, and you're going to get nowhere fast.
Right. I love that question of what don't you want, because I think that will much more quickly help you articulate vision. Is looking at and just framing it in almost the negative space and saying, what don't I want in this? I love that. That's a great question.
Well, I mean, think about some of today's unicorns, especially in Utah. Some of them have done things really, really well, and some of them have not. Now, they've still become unicorns, right? They're billion-dollar businesses. They're very successful. But I've interviewed some of these CEOs now, and some of them are building with intent, right? And they're like, I'm going to take care of my people. This is how we're going to grow. And even if it's not as high growth as I want it to be, it's stable and sustainable.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take care of my people along the way. Then there are some that are like unicorn at any cost. And it means that people get run over. The very people that built your business get run over.
Right.
And then you're diluting shares, and then you're making some interesting investment decisions, and you're moving in directions for the sake of the outcome without any thought for the journey.
Yeah.
And congratulations, you made your exit, and you did really well. But what did it really cost you? Yeah. What kind of reputation is now kind of on your record of, well, that's how we got that $1 billion.
Yeah.
So it's important to think of that process. Can I tell you about a really good gentleman right now that's doing it really well?
Yes.
Okay, Ben from Job Nimbus. He is one of the best examples I've ever seen in my life, and he's amazing to me just because his story resonates with me of how his success kind of broke free when he kind of hit a rock bottom moment, and I love those stories, right? Like, it's such an underdog story, but now he's doing fantastically, and he's made some decisions for his company now that is ensuring that the people that work for him receive proper benefits and rewards for their loyalty. And you don't see that every day.
Right.
And it's fantastic. I got to shake his hand a couple weeks ago and actually thank him for his influence. And it was such a special moment. I asked all those questions, like, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And it was all directed around taking care of his people. And you don't see CEOs like that very often. So he's a great example of what to do right.
That's awesome. So where do people go to find out about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, we're on mountainside.life.
Mountainside.life.
That's our website. We have a couple programs. So for those who are seeking jobs, we have a little, we call it Resume Rocket. So folks, especially because AI is kind of ruining everything for everyone.
For sure. Yeah.
So we've got a little course that just teaches people how to build a good resume, how to use AI to build a resume, one that ATS is going to actually read and get you, improve your odds.
Right.
So we see a lot of people very interested in that, and so we love providing that. And then we have a personal development course called Foundry. So for individuals who aren't getting the investment from their company to help them learn how to be better leaders, or just want to learn the things that an MBA won't teach you.
Right.
So we have that course, and that is about 12 weeks of instruction, and people, they transform their careers on the other end. Nice. So we have those, and then we have the big corporate things, but we love those smaller programs.
Helping the individual. Yeah.
We love helping people.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cory. Thanks for your enthusiasm and your example as well. I just, I love that, just your story of becoming, and you talked about the journey as opposed to the destination, and truly your journey has made you who you are today, for sure. Destination TBD, right? Yeah, we'll see where we finally end up, right?
Exactly.
But so far so good, it seems to me.
Oh, thanks, David. I really appreciate it.
It's great. And thanks everyone for listening today. Remember that change starts with you, and together we can increase our mental health momentum.